The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Galactic Defense Station as Commander Yuki stared at the holographic display. Another star system had gone dark. Another civilization had vanished without a trace. That makes 17 systems. In the past month, reported Captain Salmon, her voice barely above a whisper. The young officer's hands trembled as she updated the tactical map. Red zones now covered nearly half the galaxy's outer rim. Yuk. I had seen many battles in her 30 years of service. But nothing like this. The enemy they faced was unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. They called themselves the Kethmori, and they were death itself given form. "Show me the last transmission from Kepler 442, Yuki commanded. The hologram shifted to display a recording from 3 days ago. A desperate voice crackled through the static. "This is Admiral Chen of the Kepler Defense Fleet. The bioships are everywhere. They're not just attacking us. They're absorbing our ships, our people, our technology. By the gods, they're learning from everything they touch." The transmission cut to screaming, then silence. Admiral Jinwoo entered the bridge, his weathered face grim. He had just returned from the Emergency Council meeting on Vega Prime. "The Corvan Empire has fallen," he announced. "Months. That's all it took for the greatest military force in the galaxy to collapse." The Corvan had been warriors for over 1,000 years. Their plasma weapons could melt through solid titanium. Their shields could withstand the blast of a dying star. None of it had mattered against the Kethmori. "How was that possible?" asked Lieutenant Hannah, the youngest member of the bridge crew. She had graduated from the academy just 2 years ago when the biggest threat they faced was pirates and smugglers. Ginwoo activated another hologram. It showed a Kethmori bioship, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a whale and a spider. Its hull pulsed with veins of light and tentacles writhed along its sides. "They don't just destroy," he explained, "they consume. Ship they capture, every piece of technology they encounter, every living being they take it, all becomes part of them."
Oh.
The images were horrifying. Kethmori ships that had started as simple organic vessels now bristled with stolen Corvan plasma. Cannons. Their hulls showed patches of crystalline armor taken from the Vex High. Energy weapons from a dozen different species had been grafted onto their bioships like tumors. "They've been doing this for 200 years, Jinwoo continued. "Every victory makes them stronger. They learn from their enemies and adapt. The Vex High's crystal shields. The Kethmori now use them. The Luminor energy weapons. They've been integrated into their bioships." Dr. Mingi, the station's xenobiologist, pulled up her research files. "I've been studying the few survivors we've managed to rescue. Operate as a hive mind. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon is connected. They think as one, act as one, learn as one." The implications were terrifying. An enemy that could instantly share knowledge across their entire fleet. An enemy that learned from every mistake and never repeated it. An enemy that grew stronger with every battle. "What do the refugees tell us?" Yuki asked. Minji's expression darkened. "The Kethmori offer the same choice to every species they encounter. Submit and become part of their collective, losing all individual thought and freedom. Or resist and face complete extinction. There is no negotiation, no mercy." Captain Temin, monitoring the communication channels, suddenly straightened. "Ma'am, we're receiving distress signals from the Tau Ceti. System. Multiple bioship signatures detected." The bridge fell silent. Tau Ceti was only 50 light-years from Earth. "The pattern is always the same," whispered Ambassador Hyunwoo, who had joined them from the diplomatic wing. "First, they send scouts. Small bioships that catalog the target species, their technology, their military capabilities, their psychological weaknesses. Then comes the psychological warfare. Targeted strikes designed to create fear and chaos." He paused, staring at the star map. "Finally, the main fleet arrives. By then, most species are so terrified and divided that they offer little resistance." Yuki studied the tactical display. The red zones were spreading like an infection across the galaxy. Every major civilization had either fallen or retreated to the core worlds. The proud Antarian Federation, masters of quantum technology, had lasted 6 weeks. The peaceful Riegeland collective, who had never known war, had surrendered. Without firing a shot, "Ma'am," Salman called out, her voice tight with fear. "Long-range sensors are detecting movement in the outer systems. Bioship signatures, heading for the local group." Everyone on the bridge knew what that meant. The local group contained hundreds of star systems, including one small, yellow star called Sol. Earth was in their path. Yuki closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the galaxy's fate on her shoulders. Every species that had faced the Kethmori had followed the same pattern: initial resistance, followed by terror, division, and eventual surrender or extinction. But as she looked at the tactical display showing Earth's location, she wondered if this primitive world might be different. Intelligence reports described a fractured species divided by countless nations and conflicts. Surely they would be easy prey. The galaxy's worst nightmare was moving toward a small blue world whose inhabitants had no idea what was coming. Scout Prime Kethvel extended its bio-neural senses through the living walls of its ship as it approached the third planet of the Sol system. The organic vessel pulsed with stolen technology from 100 conquered worlds, its consciousness. Linked to the greater hive mind of the Kethmori collective, the planet below looked promising. Multiple electromagnetic signatures indicated a fractured civilization with separate nation-states. Perfect conditions for the standard harvesting protocol. Initiating psychological warfare phase, Kethvel transmitted to its fellow scouts. 3. Other bioships moved into position around the blue-green world. The first strikes were precise and calculated. Military installations and major population centers disappeared in brilliant flashes of plasma fire. Communication satellites were severed from their networks. The Kethmori had performed this ritual of terror countless times across the galaxy. Lieutenant Temin burst through the doors of the Sol Emergency Command Center, his uniform scorched and his face covered in soot. A Yongsun base is gone. Osan Air Base isn't responding. We've lost contact with 6 major installations. General Hyanwu studied the incoming reports with growing confusion rather than the expected despair. Something unusual was happening, instead of the typical panic and political finger-pointing. Responses flooding in showed something he had never seen before. "American Pacific Fleet is moving to support our positions," reported Communications Officer Jimin. "Chinese satellites are sharing intelligence data. Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force is coordinating rescue operations in Busan." "That's impossible," muttered Colonel Dong Yun. "We've been arguing with the Americans about missile defense systems for months. The Chinese won't even talk to us about fishing rights." Dr. Minji, the xenobiologist who had been rushed to the command center, studied the attack patterns on the main display. "These strikes aren't meant to destroy us completely. They're testing us, studying our reactions." General Hyanwu activated the emergency communication system that linked all major world leaders. Within minutes, voices from Washington, Beijing, Moscow, London, and dozens of other capitals filled the room. "This is President Kyung-ho," the voice crackled through the speakers. "All nations are to cease current hostilities immediately. Earth is under attack by an unknown enemy. We are no longer Koreans, Americans, Chinese, or Russians. We are humans, and we will face this threat together." Gal Prime Kethval monitored the planetary communications with growing bewilderment. This was not following standard protocol. Previous species had always fragmented under the initial assault. The Corvin Empire had spent 3 weeks arguing about command structure while the main fleet approached. The Vexi Collective had dissolved into competing factions within hours. But these humans were doing something unprecedented. They were unifying. "Incoming transmission from surface," reported Weapons Officer Yemen aboard the hastily assembled Earth Defense Ship Unity. The converted space station had been armed with every available weapon system in less than 48 hours. Admiral Suho's weathered face appeared on screens across the planet as he opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Attention, unknown vessels. You have attacked civilian and military targets without provocation. Identify yourselves and state your intentions or face the consequences." The bioships pulsed with what might have been amusement in a species capable of individual emotion. No prey species had ever made demands of the Kethmori. Captain Soman coordinated the global defense network from her position in the Pacific. All units, this is Sierra Command. Its enemy vessels are maintaining position at 30,000 kilometers. Defensive satellites are online. All available aircraft are being retrofitted with experimental weapons. The speed of human adaptation was staggering. Within 72 hours of first contact, civilian factories had been converted to weapons production. Commercial satellites were being armed with kinetic projectiles. Even cruise ships were being fitted with missile systems. "They're treating this like a puzzle," observed Dr. Wujin from his analysis station.
Ow.
Every nation is contributing there. Best technology and expertise. The Americans are sharing stealth technology. The Russians are providing rocket engines. The Japanese are contributing electronic warfare systems. But what truly confused the Kethmori scouts was the psychological profile emerging from their observations. Human civilization was based on competition and conflict. Yet the moment they faced an external threat, they displayed unprecedented cooperation. Commander Yunji led a squadron of modified lighter jets toward the nearest bioship. Her aircraft had been fitted with experimental plasma weapons reverse-engineered from the alien attack signatures. "This is Eagle Squadron," she transmitted. "Time to show these things what humans can do." The engagement was brief, but telling. The human fighters were primitive compared to Kethmori technology, but they fought with a ferocity and unpredictability that the scouts had never encountered. Instead of following standard military tactics, they improvised constantly, making split-second decisions that defied logical analysis. 3 bioships took minor damage before the human fighters were forced to retreat. For the Kethmori accustomed to overwhelming technological superiority, even minor damage was unprecedented. Scout Prime Kethmol transmitted its growing uncertainty to the main fleet. Subject species displaying anomalous behavior patterns. Recommend full fleet deployment for detailed analysis. In the depths of space, Fleet Prime Morthok received the transmission with what passed for interest among the hive mind. Perhaps this primitive world would provide more interesting specimens than usual before the inevitable harvest. Neither the Kethmori nor the humans realized that first contact had just changed the course of galactic history. The galaxy's worst nightmare was about to discover what happened when they encountered a species that refused to follow the rules. The real war was about to begin. The Kethmori main fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of nightmares. 200 bioships, each the size of a mountain, their hulls pulsing with veins of stolen light. Fleet Prime Morthok observed the blue planet with satisfaction. Psychological warfare phase was complete. Now came the harvest. But Earth was no longer the same world the scouts had catalogued just 1 month ago. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface," reported Navigator Co. Jin from the bridge of the Earth's defense. Ship Unity. The hastily converted space station now bristled with weapons that hadn't existed weeks. Earlier, Admiral Suho studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet's formation. "All stations, this is command. The enemy has arrived in force. Execute defense plan. Omega." Across Earth's surface, hidden installations came online. Nuclear silos that had been retrofitted for space warfare. Orbital railguns constructed from mining equipment. Satellite networks that had been converted into weapon platforms. The entire planet had become a fortress. Fleet Prime Morthok initiated the standard conquest protocol. Bioships descended toward the major population centers, their harvester troops, ready to begin the systematic collection of specimens and technology. The first surprise came over the Pacific Ocean. Commander Yunji led a squadron of modified cargo ships in what appeared to be a suicidal charge toward the largest bioship. Her vessel, packed with nuclear devices and piloted by volunteers, accelerated toward the alien dreadnought at maximum speed for Earth. She screamed into her communicator as her ship punched through the bioship's outer hull. The explosion lit up the darkness like a newborn star. The massive alien vessel, wounded but not destroyed, reeled backward in space. For the first time in 2 centuries, the Kethmori capital ship had taken serious damage. The second surprise came in Seoul, Captain. Dong-Yoon crouched in the ruins of what had been Gangnam District, coordinating the urban defense network through an encrypted radio. Kethmori had landed harvester troops in the city center, expecting the usual panicked retreat of a terrified population. Instead, they found themselves in a nightmare of human ingenuity. The subway system had been converted into a vast tunnel network connecting every major building. Civilians had been evacuated through these underground passages, while the surface became a killing field. Office buildings had been rigged with explosives. Every intersection was a potential ambush site. "Delta Team report," Dong-Yoon whispered into his radio. "Alien ground forces are confused, sir," came the reply from Sergeant Min-jae. "They keep expecting mass panic, but we're hitting them from directions they don't anticipate. We're not adapting fast enough." The Kethmori harvester troops were biomechanical creatures designed to process terrified civilians. They had never encountered coordinated urban warfare conducted by a species that refused to run. Above the atmosphere, Engineer Neon watched. From the command center of Orbital Platform 7, as her latest creation came online, the weaponized satellite array, built from space debris and asteroid mining equipment, fired kinetic projectiles at the alien fleet. "Targeting systems locked," she reported, tears streaming down her face as she watched another Earth defense ship explode in the distance. Firing sequence initiated. Improvised weapons struck 3 bioships simultaneously. The aliens' adaptive armor, designed to learn from energy weapons, struggled to compensate for simple kinetic impacts traveling at incredible speeds. Dr. Youngman worked frantically in the underground laboratory beneath MIT, analyzing pieces of captured Kethmori technology. "I'm seeing something interesting," she called to her colleague, Dr. Minseo. "Their bioneural networks are designed to adapt to predictable patterns, but they're having trouble with our chaotic approach." The revelation spread through the global command network within hours. Human tactics were working not because they were superior, but because they were unpredictable. The Kethmori's greatest strength was their ability to analyze and adapt to enemy patterns. But humans weren't giving them any patterns to learn from. Colonel Junho coordinated resistance cells from his bunker in the ruins of downtown Seoul. "Units, listen carefully. Every time the enemy adapts to one of our tactics, we switch to something completely different. Keep them guessing." The space battle raged for 3 days. Human fighters built from civilian aircraft and armed with experimental weapons swarmed around the bioships like angry wasps. They couldn't match the aliens' firepower. They could confuse and harass them. Lieutenant Siwon piloted her modified racing ship through the debris field between 2 bioships, her cargo hold packed with mining explosives. "This is Comet Leader," she transmitted. "Beginning attack run on target Alpha 7. Her ship was tiny compared to the alien vessel, but size didn't matter. When you were willing to ram explosive devices directly into the enemy's hull, the Kethmori adaptation protocols were failing. Every time they modified their shields to stop one type of attack, the humans switched to something else. Kinetic weapons became chemical explosives. Energy beams became guided missiles. Fighter swarms became stealth infiltrators. Fleet Prime. Morthok experienced something unknown in its species' collective memory and certainty. The hive mind was designed for perfect coordination and predictable conquest, but these humans fought like chaos itself given form. Captain Haijin, commanding the defense of Busan, watched as another group of alien harvester troops fell into a carefully prepared trap. "They keep expecting us to behave like their previous victims," she observed. "But we're not giving up. We're not running. We're not following their script." The first time in 2 centuries, the Kethmori were learning what it meant to face an enemy that refused to be conquered. The siege of Earth entered its 3rd month. The Kethmori fleet hung in space like wounded predators, their bioships scarred and damaged but still deadly. They had learned to counter many human tactics, but for every adaptation they made, humanity found 10 new ways to surprise them. Dr. Youngman worked by candlelight in the underground laboratory beneath what had once been Seoul National University. The power grid had been destroyed weeks ago, but the research continued. Pieces of captured Kethmori technology hummed with alien energy on her workbench. "Minseo, come look at this," she called to her colleague, who was hunched over a bioneural interface they had salvaged from a crashed alien fighter. Dr. Minseo wiped sweat from her forehead and joined her friend. "What did you find?" "I think I understand how they work now," Youngmin said, pointing to the pulsing organic circuits. "They're not just connected by technology. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon shares the same mind. They think as one. Massive brain." The implications hit both scientists immediately. If the Kethmori shared a collective consciousness, then perhaps that connection could be used against them. Colonel Junho received the transmission in his command. Bunkered deep beneath the Seoul subway system. The city above was in ruins, but the network of tunnels had become humanity's nervous system, connecting resistance cells across the globe. "All stations. This is underground command." He transmitted to cells from Tokyo to New York to London. "We have a new priority target. We need to access their shared mind." The plan that emerged over the next week was the most audacious in human history. Scientists, hackers, philosophers, and soldiers from every nation worked together on a single project. If they could inject something into the Kethmori collective consciousness, they might be able to turn the aliens' greatest strength into their weakness. Captain Soman coordinated the technical aspects from her hidden base in the ruins of Incheon. "The virus needs to be simple," she explained to the team of programmers working around her. "Something their bioneural networks can't easily filter out." "What kind of virus?" asked Lieutenant Tiemann, the youngest member of their group. Dr. Woojin, a psychologist who had been studying Kethmori behavior patterns, answered from his corner of the bunker. "Not a computer virus, an idea virus. Something that will spread through their shared mind like a disease." The concept was elegant in its simplicity. For thousands of years, the Kethmori had engineered themselves to be perfect collective beings. They had removed individual consciousness, personal fear, and the ability to doubt. They were a species that never questioned their purpose or feared death. "We give them back what they lost," Youngmin explained during a secure video call with resistance leaders worldwide. "We remind them what it means to be individuals." Commander Sawan volunteered to deliver the payload. Her small craft, built from salvaged alien technology and human engineering genius, was designed to slip through the Kethmori fleet's defenses undetected. "Package is ready for delivery," she reported as her ship approached the nearest bioship. The virus was stored in a modified alien data core, disguised to look like routine system maintenance data. "Good luck, Comet Leader," Admiral Suho's voice crackled through the encrypted channel. "The fate of humanity rests with you." Saiwan's ship docked with the bioship's data port, a process that took only seconds. Her onboard AI uploaded the virus directly into the alien vessel's neural network before detaching and fleeing into the debris field at first. Nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, something unprecedented began to occur within the Kethmori. Collective consciousness. Fleet Prime Morthok was the first to experience it. Strange sensation, unlike anything in its species' memory. The feeling was uncomfortable, unsettling. It's completely alien to its engineered nature. Fear for the first time in a millennium. A Kethmori was afraid. The emotions spread through the hive mind like wildfire. Individual bioships began to experience doubt about their mission. Harvester troops on the planet's surface suddenly questioned whether they wanted to continue fighting. The concept of personal mortality, long forgotten, returned to their consciousness. With overwhelming force, "Admiral, something's happening to the alien fleet," reported Navigator Seojin from the bridge of EDS Unity. "Multiple bioships are breaking formation. Some are retreating to safe distance." Admiral Suho watched the tactical display with amazement. "Are they ... arguing with each other?" That was exactly what was happening. For the first time in their species' history, individual Kethmori were disagreeing with the collective. Some wanted to continue the assault. Others were experiencing terror at the thought of death. A few were trying to understand what it meant to make personal choices. Captain Haijin, coordinating the defense of what remained of Busan, noticed the change immediately. "The ground forces are hesitating," she reported. "They're not following their usual attack patterns." Some Kethmori bioships began firing on their own fleet, their crews overcome with confusion and fear. Others attempted to purge the virus from their systems, only to discover that individual consciousness, once awakened, could not be easily eliminated. "They're tearing themselves apart," whispered Dr. Minji from her observation post in the orbital defense station. Fleet Prime Morthok struggled to maintain control over its fragmenting fleet. The hive mind that had been their ultimate weapon was now their greatest vulnerability. Panic spread through the collective consciousness faster than any physical attack could have traveled. The galaxy's worst nightmare was learning what it meant to be afraid of death, to doubt their purpose, and to face the terrifying freedom of individual choice. The Kethmori fleet was destroying itself from within. Bioships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries now fired upon each other in confusion and panic. Some vessels fled into hyperspace, their crews experiencing terror for the first time in their engineered existence. Others drifted helplessly in space as their crews struggled to understand concepts like personal choice and individual will. Ambassador Hyjin stood in the makeshift diplomatic center that had been built from the ruins of the old United Nations building. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to witness the impossible, the defeat of the Kethmori hegemony. "Your species has accomplished what we believed could never be done," said Ambassador Veltar of the Vex High Remnant. His crystalline form flickered with colors that indicated deep amazement. "How did you succeed where all others failed?" Chanwu, elected by the Unified Earth government just 2 weeks earlier, looked out at the gathered alien representatives. "We reminded them of something they had forgotten," he said simply. "The right to choose their own path." The news spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. The unstoppable force had been stopped. The unconquerable enemy had been conquered. Species that had hidden in the farthest reaches of space began to emerge from their hiding. Places Captain Ji-hoon commanded the first human exploration vessel to leave the Sol system. The ship Ed's Liberation had been built from the wreckage of the battle for Earth, its hull incorporating both human engineering and salvaged alien technology. Of course, plotted for the Kethmori core worlds, reported Navigator Sia-jin from her position at the helm. Long-range sensors detect millions of bioships adrift in their home system. The mission was not one of revenge or conquest. Earth's leaders had made that clear from the beginning. They were going to help, not to destroy. Coming transmission. From the surface, announced Communications Officer Jimin. Admiral Shungho's weathered face appeared on the main screen. Speaking from the bridge of the massive EDS Unity, "Remember why we're doing this," the Admiral said to the small fleet of human vessels preparing to depart. "The Kethmori were slaves to their own collective mind. Now they have a chance to choose freedom. We're going to help them learn how." Journey to the Kethmori homeworld took 3 weeks. When they arrived, the humans found a system in chaos. Thousands of bioships drifted without purpose, their crews paralyzed by their newfound individual consciousness. Commander Yunji, now recovered from her injuries during the battle for Earth, led the first contact team. Her shuttle approached one of the smaller bioships, broadcasting a simple message in the Kethmori language that human scientists had learned to decode. "We come in peace. We want to help." The response came slowly, transmitted in broken signals from the alien vessel. "We... do not understand. What is... individual purpose? What is... choice?" Dr. Youngman, now serving as the fleet's xenobiological specialist, worked with the confused Kethmori crew. "You spent thousands of years as one mind," she explained gently. "Now, you must learn to be many minds. It will take time." Some former Kethmori chose to remain in isolation, unable to cope with their new consciousness. Others began to form small groups, learning to work together without the hive mind that had once controlled them. A few expressed interest in joining the growing alliance of free species back on Earth. Reconstruction continued at an incredible pace. The unified world government had maintained the cooperation forged during the war. Former enemies now worked side by side, sharing technology and resources. General Hyunwoo, now serving as Earth's defense minister, received reports from across the galaxy. The Corvin Empire survivors are requesting military alliance, he informed the Global Council. The Vex High want to share their crystal technology. The Luminor Collective is offering energy weapons designs. President Chanwu smiled as he read. The messages: tell them we accept their friendship, but we have something more valuable to offer than weapons. The first Interstellar Freedom Academy opened on Luna 6 months after the war's end. Students from dozens of species came to learn the principles that had saved Earth. The diversity of thought was strength. The cooperation was more powerful than domination, and that freedom was worth fighting for. Lieutenant Siwan, now promoted. Captain, commanded the Academy's training flights. Freedom isn't just about having choices, she explained to a mixed class of human and alien cadets. It's about helping others find their choices too. The message spread from world to world. Human diplomatic ships carried not weapons of war, but teachers, doctors, and engineers. They helped former slave species establish their own governments. They shared technology freely. Most importantly, they taught the simple but revolutionary idea that no one should bow to another. Commander Taman, now leading the Galactic Reconstruction Fleet, transmitted his report to Earth from the edge of the galaxy. We've made contact with the Outer Rim colonies. You're ready to join the Alliance. The age of the Kethmori is truly over. As human colony ships departed for distant stars, they carried with them Earth's greatest gift to the galaxy, the knowledge that any oppressor could be defeated by those who refused to surrender their freedom. The ships bore a simple message painted on their hulls in 100 different languages. No one fights alone. The galaxy's worst nightmare had become its greatest hope. The species that had united in Earth's darkest hour now worked to ensure that no world would ever face tyranny alone again. In the depths of space, former Kethmori bioships traveled alongside human vessels, their crews learning the difficult joy of individual choice.